I used to think hotel horror stories were exaggerated. You know the kind. People claiming they saw ghosts in the hallway, heard footsteps in the middle of the night, or felt like they were being watched. I'd always chalk it up to jet lag or imagination fueled by unfamiliar surroundings. Hotels are strange places, after all. Hundreds of people pass through them. The walls are thin. The lighting is bad. It's easy to scare yourself. But after what happened to me in room 417, I don't stay in hotels anymore. And if I do, I never stay on the fourth floor. The assignment. I was 27 and working for a small magazine that specialized in travel and hospitality reviews. My job wasn't glamorous. I wasn't reviewing five-star resorts in Hawaii. I was sent to dying roadside hotels, newly renovated motels, and mid-range chains that wanted cheap publicity. That's how I ended up at the Grand Maribel Hotel. It was a tall, narrow building wedged between a defunct movie theater and an abandoned parking garage in a downtown area that used to be popular in the 1950s. From the outside, it looked elegant in a faded way, like an aging movie star still wearing too much makeup. Its once white stone exterior was now stained yellow by pollution and time, and the large glass doors at the front were streaked with fingerprints. Inside, though, it was surprisingly nice. The lobby had dark wood paneling, a large chandelier, and a faint scent of lavender that couldn't quite mask something older and dustier underneath. The woman at the front desk was thin and pale, with dark circles under her eyes. Her name tag read Marjorie. "You'll be in room 417, she said as she slid the keycard toward me. "Is that a good room?" I asked, half joking. Her hand hesitated for just a moment before she smiled. "It's quiet." At the time, I thought that was a good thing. First night. Room 417 was at the end of a long hallway on the fourth floor. The carpet was a dull red, worn thin in places, and the overhead lights flickered softly as I walked past doors that all looked identical. When I reached my room, I noticed something strange. The door across from mine, room 416, had a heavy metal lock bolted across it, like it had been sealed shut. There was no number on the door, just an outline where the plaque used to be. I stared at it for a moment before unlocking my own room. Inside, everything seemed normal. The bed was neatly made. A small desk sat near the window. The bathroom looked clean. It was exactly what you'd expect from a 3-star hotel. Except for one thing. There was a faint smell in the air. Not mold, not garbage, something metallic and sweet, like old blood. I tried to ignore it. That night, I fell asleep quickly. I was exhausted from the long drive and the stress of deadlines. I woke up at 2:13 a.m. I know the exact time because it was glowing on the digital clock beside the bed. At first, I didn't know why I'd woken up. The room was dark and silent. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming from the hallway outside my door. They stopped right in front of my room. I held my breath. There was a soft, scratching sound, like fingernails being dragged across wood. Then something brushed against my door handle. I was too scared to move. After a few seconds, the footsteps continued down the hall and faded away. I told myself it was another guest, or maybe hotel staff. But something about the way those footsteps moved, it felt like they had been searching. The second night. The next morning, I asked Marjorie about room 416. She didn't look surprised. "That room isn't in use," she said. "Why is it locked like that?" "Maintenance issues." "What kind of issues?" Her eyes flicked toward the elevator before she answered. "Plumbing." That didn't make sense, but
I didn't push it. That day, I explored the city and worked on my article. By the time I came back to the hotel, it was already dark. As I walked down the fourth-floor hallway, I noticed something new. There were faint, wet footprints on the carpet. They led from the stairwell to room 416 and stopped. That night, I woke up again at exactly 2:13 a.m. This time, the scratching came from inside the walls. It sounded like someone was trying to crawl. Then I heard a voice, a woman's voice whispering, "Help me." It wasn't loud. It was barely audible, like it was coming from far away. But it was real. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. "Hello?" I whispered. The voice stopped. After a few seconds, something thumped against the wall between my room and 416. Once, twice, 3 times. Then everything went quiet. The third night, I should have left. I wanted to leave, but I kept telling myself I was imagining things. That exhaustion and paranoia were getting to me. That was my mistake.
That evening, I was brushing my teeth when I noticed something strange in the bathroom mirror. There was a handprint on the glass behind me. It was small, thin, like a woman's hand, and it was wet. I slowly turned around. The bathroom was empty. When I looked back at the mirror, the handprint was gone. I didn't sleep at all that night. At 2:13 a.m., I heard the door across the hall creak open. Room 416. I don't know how I knew. It just felt certain. Then I heard footsteps again. This time, they were coming closer. They stopped right outside my door. Something knocked. Not hard. 3 soft taps. I stared at the door, frozen. The knob began to turn. Slowly. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, pointing it at the door like it could somehow protect me. The handle stopped moving. Then a voice whispered through the door. "You took my room." I screamed. The truth. The next morning I checked out early. Marjorie didn't look surprised when I returned my key. "You stayed in 417, she said quietly. "Yes," I replied. "What happened in 416? She was silent for a long time. Finally she said, "A woman was murdered there in 1997. A guest. The hotel covered it up." "How?" "They sealed the room, changed the numbers, but she never left." I asked what the woman's name was. Marjorie shook her head. "People who learn her name start dreaming about her." I left without another word. Epilogue. A week later, I got an email from the magazine. My assignment had been canceled. The Grand Maribel Hotel had shut down suddenly. There was no explanation. Sometimes, though, at exactly 2:13 a.m., I wake up to the sound of soft knocking on my bedroom door, and a woman's voice whispering, "You took my room." The worst part about what happened at the Brighton Lodge is that I can't even prove it was paranormal. All I have are the phone records and the voicemail that shouldn't exist. I stayed at the Brighton Lodge for one night in October while driving across the state for work. It was one of those small, locally owned hotels that hadn't been renovated since the late 1980s. Brown carpet, wood-paneled walls, yellow lighting that made everything look sickly. Still, it was cheap and close to the highway. The front desk clerk was an older man with thick glasses and shaky hands. When he gave me my key, he said something strange. "If the phone rings at night, don't answer it." I laughed, thinking he was joking. He didn't laugh back.
Room 312. My room was on the third floor, facing the parking lot. Everything seemed normal. I turned on the TV, ate some takeout, and tried to relax. Around 11 p.m., I heard arguing through the wall. A man and a woman. I assumed the couple had gone to sleep. At 12:47 a.m., the phone rang. The sound was so loud and sudden that it made me jump. I stared at the phone on the nightstand. The front desk clerk's warning came back to me. I let it ring. After about 10 seconds, it stopped. A minute later, it rang again. This time I picked it up. Hello? There was heavy breathing on the other end. Then a woman whispered, "He's in the room." My stomach dropped. "Who is this?" I asked. The line went dead. I called the front desk. "Someone just called my room," I said. They sounded scared. There was a pause. "What did they say?" the clerk asked. "They said someone was in their room." Another pause. "That wasn't us." "Then who was it?" "I told you not to answer the phone." Before I could say anything else, he hung up. At 1:13 a.m., the phone rang again. I didn't answer. Instead, I let it go to voicemail. The message it left was only 7 seconds long. All you could hear was a woman crying, and then a man's voice in the background saying, "Hang up the phone." At 2:02 a.m., the phone rang again. This time, I answered. "I called the police," I lied. "Whatever you're doing—" "Please," the woman whispered. "He's watching me." "Where are you?" "Room 312. I felt cold all over. "That's my room," I said. "I know." The line went dead. I didn't sleep at all that night. At sunrise, I went straight to the front desk and demanded answers. The clerk looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept either. "Room 312, he said quietly. "A woman was killed there in 2004. Her boyfriend strangled her after a fight. She tried to call for help." "What happened to him?" "He hung himself in the bathroom before police arrived." I showed him my voicemail. He listened, his face going pale. "That shouldn't still be happening," he whispered. I kept that voicemail. Sometimes I still listen to it. There's something new I noticed recently. Right at the end of the recording, after the man tells her to hang up, you can hear a phone ringing, very faint, like it's calling from somewhere else.
The first thing you notice when you walk into the Alderwood Hotel is the silence. Not the peaceful kind, the wrong kind. The kind that makes you feel like the building is holding its breath. I didn't realize that at first. I was too busy dragging my suitcase across the cracked marble lobby floor and checking the time on my phone. I'd been driving for 10 hours straight and just needed a bed. I didn't care if the place was old or ugly, as long as it was cheap and available. The Alderwood was both. The front desk was a dark wooden counter that looked like it hadn't been replaced since the 1950s. Behind it stood a woman in her late 40s, maybe older, with her hair tied back in a tight bun. Her eyes were tired but alert, like someone who didn't trust what she saw around her. "Checking in?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Just one night." She typed my name into her computer, then hesitated. "Room 512 is available." "That's fine." Her fingers stopped moving. "You won't be disturbed there." The way she said it made me uncomfortable, but I didn't know why. The elevator was slow, rattling as it climbed. The numbers flickered above the door. 2, 3, 4, 5. When it stopped, the doors opened to a hallway that felt colder than the rest of the hotel.
The carpet was dark green and worn thin in the center. The lights buzzed softly, giving everything a yellowish glow. As I walked down the hall, I passed doors with numbers that didn't seem evenly spaced. 501, 503, 506, 509, 512. Like some of them had been removed. My room was at the very end. When I unlocked it, I was hit with a strange smell. Not rotten, not smoky, just old. The room looked clean enough. Queen-size bed, desk, TV, bathroom in the corner. But there was something off. The air felt thick, like I'd stepped into a place that hadn't been opened in a long time. I tried the window. It was locked shut. I ordered food and sat on the bed watching TV, trying to shake the uneasy feeling crawling up my spine. Around 9 p.m., I heard footsteps outside. They were slow, heavy. They stopped right in front of my door. I waited, expecting a knock. Nothing happened. After about 10 seconds, the footsteps moved away. I opened the door and looked down the hall. It was empty. At 11:47 p.m., there was a knock on my door. 3 slow taps. I froze. "Hello?" I called. No answer. I checked through the peephole. No one was there. When I opened the door, the hallway was empty again. But something was different. The carpet outside my door was damp, like someone had been standing there in wet shoes. The next morning, I went to the front desk. "Is someone staying in the room next to mine?" I asked. The woman frowned. "Which room?" 511. "There is no 511. I stared at her. "It's right next to mine." She shook her head. "There hasn't been a room there for 30 years. She finally told me the truth. In 1993, a fire had broken out on the 5th floor. It started in room 511. A man and a woman had been staying there. They had been seen arguing earlier that night. The fire killed them both. Afterward, the hotel sealed off part of the floor and renumbered the remaining rooms. "Some guests," she said quietly, "still say they hear someone knocking." That night I should have left. Instead, I stayed. At 12:03 a.m., the knocking returned. This time, it wasn't on my door. It was on the wall beside my bed. 3 slow knocks. From the other side. Then a voice whispered, "Let me in."
I didn't answer the voice. I lay in my bed staring at the wall where the knocking had come from, every muscle in my body locked in place. The whisper had sounded close, too close, as if someone was standing inches away from me, separated only by drywall and peeling wallpaper. "Let me in," it said again. The voice was a woman's, soft, tired, almost polite. I slid out of bed and back toward the door, keeping my eyes on the wall. The knocking stopped. The room felt colder, like someone had opened a window even though mine was still sealed shut. I didn't sleep that night. When morning came, the 5th floor looked normal again. Or at least as normal as it ever did. The buzzing lights, the faded carpet, the crooked door numbers. I walked down the hall toward where room 511 should have been. Halfway between 509 and 512, the wall was different. The wallpaper was newer there, not as faded. When I ran my hand across it, it felt hollow. I knocked. 3 slow taps. Something knocked back. I nearly fell over. I demanded answers from the front desk clerk. She didn't try to lie this time. "Some people don't die when they burn," she said. "Not all the way. Some part of them stays, waiting." Waiting for what? For someone to open the door. I told her what I'd heard. Her face went pale. "She never asks," she whispered. "Not like that." That night, the knocking came sooner. At 10:18 p.m. 3 taps, then 4. Then scratching. "I can see you," the voice said. "You're right there." The wall began to bulge inward slightly, like something was pressing against it from the other side. I grabbed my things and ran. As I reached the elevator, I heard the wall behind me crack. Something was trying to break through. As the elevator doors closed, I heard her scream. Not in anger, in desperation. "Don't leave me!" The Alderwood Hotel closed 2 weeks later. Officially, it was for renovations. Unofficially, people kept reporting knocking on the sealed 5th floor. Sometimes when I stay in hotels now, I hear it too. 3 slow taps, coming from the wall beside my bed, and a voice whispering, "Let me in."